Okay, back with one more play explain. Just gonna keep doing these. Repetition is key if you're trying to get better at the game. Say, God, I don't even know what day of the week it is. I think it's like a Thursday. Maybe it's a Thursday, maybe it's a Friday. I don't know. But we're back with some 1-2 on Bodog, and yeah, just like right off the bat, like there's a lot of mistakes here, right? Like you can see here, just like the limp, um, stuff like that going on. Just got limbs and then pots the flop. Not really sure what to make of this, but not going to fold top pair just yet. I will fold now that the four straights come in. Small bet here with the jacks. And on the turn, jacks just very clear. Check back here. Too strong to bluff, not strong enough to value bet. King is going to be good for our range. Facing the block bet, I'm just going to call with the jacks. Definitely not folding for this small of a size. And yeah, just very standard, have to put it in. If we had a king there, we would definitely raise for value. And maybe even some stronger queen X would raise for value, but that would be definitely on the thin side. Just folding through, making the standard open here with the 7-5. And folding to the 3-bet. I know some of you watching this might be more live centric, and for those of you who play a lot of live, I really always recommend that you do some online just for practice, because I think a lot of people don't realize just oh, fuck, maybe I've said this before, but a lot of people don't realize just how few hands you get through playing live. You play 30 hands an hour, and if a year of full-time play, you just end up with 30k hands. Here, just check raising the flush draw. Gonna bet this sometimes, check this sometimes. Get a low number, I'm actually gonna check it. On these double Broadway boards, there's actually a lot you can do. You can close your eyes and bet small. You can do a big bet strategy. Both approaches are going to be quite valid. And just folding the river here. Folding the river here, just board's too scary, our hand's too bad. Only called turn because he stabbed kind of small. If he went big on the turn, I probably would have let it go as well. Facing a limp here in the hijack. So just going to raise the nines. Here facing a big bet with the 6-4. Look, this might be tight. I'm just gonna fold it. Like I don't want to call like a big bet out of position with 4 high or 8 high or whatever it was. Yeah, it's just when people bet big like that, it's just it's they usually have either a strong draw or some sort of value hand, and calling 8 high into that is just generally not going to do very well for you. Here, another one of those big bet flops. Gonna start off with a big bet. Um, this one here, I don't know what to make of this. Like, it's kind of like a weird line. He's kind of led 3 times, and when people are kind of weird like this, I'm just kind of suspicious. Here, not going to double barrel on the right because when the jack comes in, the jack is going to be better for villain, right? If you think about it, when we bet big on the flop, we're representing strong ace X, and some 2 pairs, and villain's going to call an ace or jack. But when the jack comes in, like he gains a lot of trips, and it's just not going to be very good for us. It's just not going to be very good for us. Ace jack off, pretty contentious folding here. And Queen 10 gonna open the hijack. But it is borderline in the hijack. Like um, yeah, it's borderline in the hijack. When this guy pots the flop, I'm just gonna fold. Like this, this is not gonna be very weak. This is gonna be quite strong, I think. When people bet big, like they probably just have a strong hand. Like there's no need to no need to overcomplicate it. No need to overthink it. It's just it is what it is. Checking it over to the preflop caller. If this is confusing to some of you guys, you don't really want to do a lot of c betting out of position when people call you in position, and that's because the in position caller has a very tight condensed range. Um, very very tight condensed range, and yeah, like typically our range is going to have a lot more just like offsuit, disconnected stuff because we're the opener. And given that we lack the positional advantage and also our range is kind of just more all over the place, we actually end up being weaker, basically. A lot of people would think like, oh, it's an ace high board, like you have the ace king advantage, like it has to be good for you. Yeah, that's not really how it works. Because poker, it's not just built around like who has a strong hand. It's also about how often you have a strong hand. The often is a really key word. The percentage, the amount of times. Um, that matters. This guy leads. Our third pair is quite weak, and I'm just gonna start turning it into a bluff right away. Um, yeah, like I feel like this lead is gonna be quite weak, just given that it's very small, and I also feel like our hand does not have a lot of showdown value. Like across different runouts, we're gonna be kind of sad, basically. There's no runout that's good for us, and when it's that case, I just like to turn my hand into a bluff right off the bat. Yeah, it just gives us. I think it just plays better. I think it just plays better. Right, you can fold out some stuff like pocket sixes, pocket sevens, like some random junk this guy might be stabbing with, etc. Queen 10 off is actually just a fold under the gun. Believe it or not, is just a fold. Um, let's see here. Okay, this is gonna be a 3-bet limp. This guy raises pretty standard 3-bet with the suited Broadway. Nothing nothing too exceptional here. We get this one cold call, and this guy's just, like very clearly a recreational. No doubts about it. That's interesting. I think when we get this 4-bet, I just have to let it go. I don't feel good about my ability to continue into this. Because if you call, like it's very likely this guy just jams. And then you're kind of forced into a position where you have to call off with Jack 10 high, and that's just not very attractive. Nothing worse than putting in money as a call and having to fold before you even see the next tree. Like that truly, truly is the nut low. Here, just going to be checking our hand. If it checks to us. Facing this big bet. Uh, it's actually a lot closer than you guys think. I'm just going to fold. I know it's quite weak, but with a player behind, poker just kind of gets like that. Like poker kind of just sucks when you have a player behind. Check raising the jacks here after we defend the big blind. Only calling because it's big blind versus under the gun. Jacks is not always a 3-bet facing the under the gun open. And just going for the mergey check raise on the flop because we have an overpair. It's also a vulnerable hand. We can get value and we can get protection. When the 4 straight comes in on the turn, any 9 makes a straight. We can't keep value betting anymore, but we can comfortably check call given that we are drawing very live. Villain could be bluffing. And also villain could be bluffing, and also we're drawing a lot to 9. Uh, I was gonna fold the river. I was gonna fold the river, but this small bet is kind of suspicious to me. When people go like this and it doesn't clearly make sense, I'm usually tempted to just flick it in. And yeah, this time he just had value, which is totally fine. That would be indeed our best bluff catcher though, right? Like just double blocking Jack 9. The nuts. And if he bet any bigger, I would have just folded. So never too big of a problem, just bluff catching with great pot odds, right? Like when he goes half pot like that, you only have to be good 1 in 4 times. Here, blocking ace queen, king queen, and ace 5, I'm just going to go for the overbet. Just go for a very aggressive double barrel. It should be really hard for villain to have anything on this board, given that he called the small blind. His range is not going to contain a lot of ace 5, 5, 6 because those hands don't like play that well as a call there, right? Like the small blinds range just looks like a lot of pocket pairs, a little bit of suited connectors, and some suited broadways and suited aces. And yeah, like that range is gonna be very hard to hold on to facing a double barrel, right? Like think about how all those pocket pairs would feel. Like think about how the weak queen x would feel. Um, yeah, very tough spot for a lot of those holdings. So just happy to put on the pressure, given that we double block top pair. Happy to continue folding along here. Just very easy, very happy folding. Um, okay, we just fold. I was gonna potentially consider a 3-bet against the short stack there. A7 off against a 3x open, I think is just a fold. Against a smaller open, you can call it because you're getting better pot odds. But yeah, against a 3x open, you do have to knit it up a good amount, actually. Yeah, yeah. I honestly, it's kind of a shame that I actually really enjoy playing fast fold, and I think a lot of people do, like just given just like how fast things come, and you're almost never bored, and you're kind of always engaged. It really is a nice format, but unfortunately, it's not the most profitable format. Sure, I'll play this one. This one, the 5-6 under the gun, you could take it or leave it. It's honestly in a different hand. You could play it, you could fold it. It's not a big deal either way. We'll defend the ace-5, given the 2.5x open, and given that this player is probably recreational, do the short stack, and just folding once we whiff the flop. Would open king 3 from the cutoff, but not king 2. King 10 is a good open. King and off from the cutoff on the left there. You could open it. Some people do. It's a very threshold hand. It's a definite open on the button, but it's a threshold open on the cutoff. Um, and personally, with like borderline threshold hands, like I just prefer to buck them. But that's really a personal choice. Okay, King 10. Gonna be just calling here. Here, Ace King 6, again, we're doing big bet or check, but with middle pair, I'm just mostly going to be checking, right? Like it's a hand where we don't get too much value, we don't really fold out better. Going for the small stab here, really like that we have interaction around the board here in the form of the 10x, the gutter. We have a lot of strength here on, I know we never have 10 in our range, but just having interaction and having equity is just always really valuable. So I'm going to go for the double barrel. Once this goes check, 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 a king is strong enough to go for the valid bet on the right. Checking down to the river, you can go for these thin value bets, no problem. Um, hmm. How do I feel about this? Okay, so one thing I really like here, I really like that we block Jack 10 and King 10. So given that we double block the suited Jack X, I'm just going to go for the shove. He's always going to call me when he has a jack. Like when he has a jack, he's never ever going to fold. And I'm not like trying to get a jack to fold. I'm trying to get, stuff like pocket 10, stuff like 9x. stuff like 7x to fold. Um, and if he just calls a jack and folds everything else, he will still be overfolding. How do I know that? Well, you actually have to look at the spot. It's one of those things where you wouldn't know unless you actually looked at the spot. But in a lot of spots in the game, right, like you can't just call the nuts. Like if your opponent only is going to call the nuts, then he's probably overfolding. And yeah, in that spot, he had ace jack and called us down, which is very unfortunate. But I still like that we double block jack 10 suited and king jack suited, which are two of his main jack X. Right, a lot of ace jack would check raise the flop, just to fast play for value. So blocking ace jack I think is actually not as important there as blocking jack 10 and king jack, which are more of a bluff catchy jack X in his spot. What value do we represent? Well, we represent boats. We represent Jack X ourselves. We can take that bet shove line with any decent jack, so we could go that line with Jack X ourselves, which we have plenty of in our range. Oh fuck! That was a mistake on the left. I thought this guy called, and so I overcalled, but it turns out he min clicked, and I would have just folded against the min click. So that was a bit of a mistake here on the left. Oops. Yeah. And a lot of people will say like, oh, like why don't you bet smaller to get a cheap bluff? Um, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like poker just doesn't, it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. When you say stuff like, why don't you just bet small to, get a cheap bluff? That assumption can be correct, but it requires a lot of like little assumptions to line up for the overall thing to be correct. And if any one of your little assumptions goes wrong, then all of a sudden your whole thing kind of tumbles over like a house of cards. Um, right? Like one of the whole assumption of like, oh, like why don't you get why don't you save money betting small? It's like, well, you're making the assumption that people are going to fold the same frequency against a large bet and a small bet. Like that's a very big assumption. Like you're just kind of hoping that they're going to do that. You don't have any data, you don't have any like empirical evidence that they're going to fold the same amount against the small bet and the big bet. Like what if they just fold a lot more against the big bet? Um, right, like when you're what I'm basically trying to say is like when you're trying to like do something by the logic of saving money, um, you better have to have some like empirical evidence or data to back it up. Like your estimate or your guess or your observation is not enough. Here, given that we're the only ones that can really have 6-4, the flop is low and better for our range, I'm going to start to polarize here and go large. Um, we have sets, we have two pairs, we have 6-4, we have a bunch of straights that he has a hard time having. And we also have a 6 in our range, which, gives us surrounding interaction to that region. So very happy to polarize, and if the river came a brick, I'd probably be doing a lot of shoving. Turn will be just checking back with the queens. Again, like too strong to bluff, too weak to value bet. Very clear check back, and we'll probably fold to the river stab here. I don't think he's going to find enough bluffs here. Yeah, okay. Do we get to value bet this? You know what? It's on the thin side, but maybe yes. This is on the thin side. Definitely on the thin side, but maybe yes. Maybe yes. When it goes check this, there's because the logic is if he had an ace, he would very often bet himself. So when he checks again, like a lot of ace x can get removed from his range, And so he's kind of just forced to bluff catch with like pocket eights, like second pair, third pair, etc. A lot of which we beat. Is Queen Nine a defend here? Fuck, I don't remember. I think it can go either way. So I'll defend it this time. But actually, when this guy calls, it's a very clear fold. So people don't realize that when you get a opener and a caller, you actually have to defend even tighter. And it's because people like think you have to defend wider because you're getting better pot odds, but it's actually the other way around. Yes, you're getting better pot odds, but the downside is you now have to play queen jack offsuit out of position against two villains, and that's just a horrible dog shit spot for you to be in. Um, yeah, you get slightly better pot odds, but you're getting a better price to put yourself into a shit situation, which actually overall makes it worse for you. So yeah, so not good there. Sure. We've been seeing king jack off in the cutoff a lot this session. And yeah, it's a threshold open. I guess I've seen it enough where it's teased me into playing it. Okay, Mr. King 9, we will see how this works out. 10-9 off on the cutoff would be an open, but folding against someone else's open. Someone do something so I could fold. I'll be honest, like on these fast fold sites, I know you can just like check and just like fold it before anyone does anything, but I have a suspicion, I have a really sneaky suspicion that if you just click fold now before anyone opens, the site just takes your big blind, even if it folds around to you later in the game. Because if you just click fold now there, um, in theory, everyone could just fold around to you and you still win. In theory, right? But I really don't feel like if that happens, they're going to come around and update your balance here retroactively. Like, I really feel like that's not the case. I really feel like if you just click fold now, and it and after you click fold now, like it goes around and you win anyways, I really feel like the site just takes your big blind and small blind. Um, yeah. Like for 10-2 off there when you're definitely not winning, I think it's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Gonna go for a double barrel here with the diamond. Um, it's a bit of a spicy, low frequency double barrel, but I got a high number, so I can justify it. And now when the river comes in, I have to bluff with the diamond. I'm just gonna go for a block size. The reason I'm choosing a block size is because flushes are generally very range overlappy, and what I mean by that is that, like in this specific spot, both players can have a lot of flushes. You can have a lot of flushes because you barreled, but villain also can have a lot of flushes because he floated flush draws on the turn, flop and turn. And so when people have a lot of flushes, both players have a lot of flushes, and you're the out of position player, you're naturally at a disadvantage, and your range is forcing you a lot of blocking when the flush comes in. Um, that is it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to explain unless you just look at the spot. But the best size there is block, and so you would just pick block with your value and bluffs. Kind of the same deal here, right? Like when it goes check check, my primary value is over pairs, um, and he's gonna have more 10x than me, and the 10x undercuts my over pairs. So my range as a whole is probably gonna just want to do a lot of blocking. So maybe I'll go like this again. Okay, he just folds. Yeah, anytime the board comes out in a way where you're out of position and villain has a lot of potential value in his range, you're almost always forced to just play very blocky. Folding, folding, folding. Okay, gets a limp. We'll just go check, check. This hand middle pair, I'm probably gonna check and just look at check call down. When he goes check, check flop, he's probably pretty weak. Um, can't check raise a straight here. Like the four liner to a six, you can't check raise because the flushes come in. I don't think I've seen a single premium hand this session. I don't think I've seen like a ace king or a. Actually, I think I saw an ace king once. I don't think I've seen like an aces or kings or something. I mean, I suppose you only get dealt aces like once every 200 something hands anyways, so makes sense that you wouldn't. Okay, finally an action hand. We'll be playing the eights. We'll be playing the eights for sure. Folding the 7, 8. We'll probably just fold this hand to a 4-bet. Does it call? I think my mid calls a little bit. I don't know. I'm probably just gonna fold. Cutoff versus button. If it were later position, the eights would be higher up in our range, and we would have to call. But I think hijack cutoff, it's tight enough that you just fold it. I could be wrong though, but I'm pretty sure it's just a fold. Ah, brilliant. Aces. Interesting min raise. Gonna be putting in the 4-bet for sure. Going large. Never afraid to go large with value. Like, never, ever, ever, ever be afraid to go large with value. If you are afraid that people are going to fold against your large bets, the solution is to bluff more, not bet smaller. Don't be a pussy. Betting smaller to get called is pussy shit. The solution is to bluff more. Bluff more so they have to call you. Okay, potentially consider a check raise here. Um, okay, so when the flop goes check check, this is actually something really interesting. Really cool spot. Um, when the flop goes check check, he now doesn't really have an ace. And also, given that the 4-5 has come in, the 4-5 becomes very, very, very good for us. Um, so if he bet there, like we'd be looking to play our hand quite aggressively as a check raise bluff. But now that it's gone check check down the river, I'm just gonna play my hand as a check call. If he bet the turn, I'd be looking to bluff my hand pretty aggressively. But it does not come to that. Coming up in half an hour, probably just going to. Okay, I'll play this ace king and then we will call it for today. Yeah, again, like this kind of raise is very fishy to me. This min raise, so just gonna put it in large. Um, Small c bet when the board comes 6-4-4 after he calls, it's basically a blank board. It's basically as if nothing came out. So we're going to press our overpair advantage. And after the club completes and we have the club ourselves, um, and we also block ace, queen, king, queen. Just a very clear triple barrel. Very clear triple barrel to put it on. If he check shoves the turn on us, it's going to be very sad, but we're just going to fold. Looks like we'll be getting this one through. Right? Oh, what the fuck? Okay, I guess we're gonna fold against a check raise, but this min raise, sure. You're getting a reasonable price, sure. I don't mind. Now I'm just hoping he checks the river so we can bluff at it. But okay, fine. You got me. You got me. You got my fucking whatever amount of money, $50. Just betting here, repping a king. Any king I could go for this size, and we could call by deuces, which is fine. And okay, that will be all for today. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week.